Hello everyone, my name is Mohammed Said and I was the director of my film Children of Lilith. Today I'm going to be doing the Wired Autocomplete interview. So let's get started. So here we have our board with us. Let's see what our first question is.
I knew it.
Okay. Okay, now we'll improvise with this. First question that Wired intended to ask me was what were some of the hard skills that I developed? So let's get straight into it. Indeed.com describes hard skills as abilities that you gain through education, training, and experience that often relates directly to a specific job or industry. You may also develop these skills through more informal methods such as pursuing hobbies or interests related to those skills. The very first hard skill I developed was cinematography. This looked like things such as composing shots in a certain way that help you achieve the effect you have in mind, to aligning camera movements with the feel of the scene. When I started off my journey of visual storytelling, I was really bad with the camera, as I had only ever taken random shots from my Samsung. But this journey allowed me to learn all sorts of technical knowledge, such as composition techniques, including things like rule of thirds, leading lines, 180-degree rules, negative space, etc., and how they all individually are used to create different sorts of meaning. I would have not been able to execute these shots with the proper effects in the beginning. For example, if you look at my first ever preliminary, I was trying to show an isolated and sad character. I could have built a lot on that effect by showing him against a lot of negative space to elevate the artistic execution of those shots. Now that I have the media knowledge that I do, I utilize techniques like rule of thirds and negative space to create meaning, and it's something that's helped me immensely in elevating my visual storytelling. The second hard skill that I developed was screenwriting. I had little experience in screenwriting before due to passion projects, but actually professionally writing for a screen was something I was very much more new to. The script that my teammate had written had a lot of narrative inconsistencies in it and needed a lot of editing, and it was outdated due to location changes and slight plot modifications. Hence, when I got to editing and rewriting the script, there was a lot to fix. It was really fun to learn the anatomy of a screenplay with things such as slug lines and scene headers, as well as action and dialogue lines. It was also super fun to come up with a dialogue in Latin to add to that supernatural uncanny vibe. I went from being an absolute amateur to someone who's so confident in their abilities now that can even write a feature film script. As a matter of fact, I've actually already started, and it's something I'm pursuing in my personal time as a passion project. Moving on, my third skill. My third hard skill as an editing instructor is the one that I am proud of the most, because editing has always been something that I've been very intimidated by. My experiences with Premiere Pro as a beginner have been nothing short of traumatic. But this time around, we did all of our editing on CapCut PC, which has a very beginner-friendly and hospitable user interface. I was not the happiest with the way our project had been shot, which was weighing down on me a lot, and being involved in the editing process really helped me get back that feeling of hope and control, and snap me out of that nihilistic trance. Editing made me realize just how much of a difference things like good sound design, color grading, and transitions make. My favorite part of the project was probably the hour-long editing calls I had with our editor, where I instructed her and gave her directions on all that she should do, subtract and add and change. My production skills developed heavily in the sense that I now know how to shoot and capture things with an awareness of how they'll be dealt with in post-production. I know to look out for things like having a grip on my breath and not breathing really loudly behind the camera, so the breathing doesn't become part of the footage, and to be super steady while shooting, because otherwise the mundane everyday footage will look like a shaky cam footage, and that can give it the wrong effect. Now I'll be moving on to my second question with hopefully a better outcome this time. Okay, great. What are some of the soft skills that Mohammed Saeed developed in the making? Investopedia.com defines soft skills as character traits that are interpersonal skills that allow a person to interact effectively with others. As a director, it was so very important to possess these personal skills because you are constantly working with so many people on set. All people who are taking out the precious time out of their days to come help you with something that they don't even get anything for in return. So as a director, it was important for me to make sure that everyone felt constantly acknowledged and appreciated for their efforts, while also maintaining a serious work ethic to ensure no compromise on the artistic integrity of the project. In a film production, it's very important to be aware and concise with the directions that you are giving. You have to be respectful and also foster trust between your teammates. There were many times where I was anxious about progress and either upset with my teammates for not taking deadlines seriously or not taking initiative when I would get too busy with my other extracurriculars. In those times, I send them thorough messages on how I need them to look out for the project just as much as I am. And I did this very genuinely to kindle some understanding from their side. The communicator also meant knowing when to be strict and when to be soft. The final costumes of the ceremonial robes ended up being complete only 5 hours before the shoot. So leading up to the shoot, I was very stressed out and was hoping to get the costumes done way earlier. Leading up to the week before the shoot, I also intensified pressures on my teammate Naveen, who was handling the costumes so that they would be ready in time. On top of all of this, I also had to be somewhat strict with my editor, who was apathetic towards taking down notes when I would give her edits to make, which would make me feel really upset and invisible. But I championed through by giving her a written list of edits via messages, even if it demanded more work to ensure the timely completion of the project. All of these challenges forced me into developing adaptability and problem solving, as I would not get peace of mind until the assigned work was done. I developed the skill of doing routine checkups to monitor progress and specify pressures where needed, which is one of the great responsibilities of every director. So improved my production skills of time management and learned that not everything needs to be rushed. If I could go back in time, I would definitely schedule our first shoot into a 2 or 3 day shoot instead of cramming it all into one, which added unnecessary pressure. But despite the pressure, we were still able to get everything done due to the time management skill I had developed over the course of the project. Now we'll be very carefully moving on to our third question. What did Muhammad Said learn from Preliminary 1? Preliminary 1 was the preliminary where I carried out the execution of a narrative through pictures. And it was the one that really helped me planning out the sequencing of shots and how that technique can be utilized and help create meaning. I wanted to keep it brief, with the final shot being the main character standing near a ledge, from a safe distance of course, to imply he commits suicide. But right before we even got the chance to shoot that shot, the security guard present there kicked us out of the premises because we had not taken proper permission and assumed that this place that we were shooting at was public property. It was a key moment in learning flexibility and adaptability around challenges as I incorporated the sudden location change into the narrative. It was a great first experience in learning teamwork and making everyone on set feel appreciated. Time for our other question. What did Muhammad Said learn from Preliminary 2? Preliminary 2 was the one where I tried to film a short horror scene, but that in itself came with its own challenges. The main one was the fact that right when we were about to wrap up our entire shoot and get done with all of it, the floor that we were basically shooting the scene on and the classroom where we were shooting our final scene, turns out there was an exam schedule at that timing that we were not made aware of beforehand. So right as we were about to finish wrapping up, all the students suddenly started coming in and we had to pretty much wait for them to get done with the exam. But turned out that was going to take 2 whole hours and we didn't have that much time to waste. So then we had to relocate to a new floor and then we had to reshoot all of it again. But the cool thing about navigating that challenge was that it took me such little amount of time to be able to do all of it again because of the practice and the experience and the skill that I had learned from the initial shoot that we were doing already. So where that shoot on the 3rd floor, the very one that we had to reschedule, took me like a whole hour to figure out. Shoot on the 4th floor that we did, which I think turned out really well, only took me around 20 minutes, and that was really cool because I got to see real-time progress and growth happening right in front of me. Time for our next question. What did Muhammad Said learn from Preliminary 3? Preliminary 3 was a great exercise in character introduction, and it was the first time I directed the effects of music on a project. And it brought me so much excitement and joy to notice how big of an impact it makes. For this preliminary, I actually got permission for our location, which was inside of our friend's house, and had surveyed it beforehand with my partner. Hence, carrying out proper and thorough analysis of a filming location is another skill I've developed from this journey. The actor for this preliminary was an acquaintance of my teammate, someone who I hadn't actually met before. But I used this opportunity to become friends with the actor that we were working with, and that automatically elevated our working chemistry by so much because we were actually passing around jokes, and it's something that actually did help me direct his acting even better. So I guess that you can say that I developed the skill of maintaining high morale and great communication, and also making new friends. What a great skill to have. Now I'll be moving on to the next question. What did Saeed learn from preliminary 4? Ooh, these questions are getting predictable. Preliminary 4 was an amazing exercise when it comes to working with lighting. And it was the first time I had actually really dabbled in lighting in a more professional capacity and angling it in a specific way that helps create the intended meaning that I'm trying to go for. It's developed my skill to an extent where I now know I can create cool effects and cool moods by using filter paper and different intensities to achieve the look that I want. I also know, because of this preliminary, and learned that the place that you end up placing the lighting ends up having an effect on the visual storytelling as well. For example, if we take this lighting and put it here like this, it adds an uncanny scary effect. But if we add it all the way here, it adds like a more mystical effect. I'm sure I can come up with a better example, but I did that on the spot. Okay, last question. What did Muhammad Saeed learn from preliminary 5? Oh. Lastly, my final preliminary helped me understand color grading and what sort of color grading is best for the vibes that you want to accomplish. For more details on my 5th preliminary, please feel free to check out my blog, as I've gone into detailed reflection on what each preliminary meant to me and how it helped develop my skill. But I believe that is it with the Wired Autocomplete interview. Thank you so much for watching my video and staying with me till this far. And thank you so much for your time. Alright, bye! Something is electrocuting me here.